AITAH for telling my wife we need to put ourselves on a budget. I never expected a simple conversation about money to make me question my entire marriage. It started on a random Wednesday morning, one of those painfully ordinary days where you think nothing significant could possibly happen. My wife, Emma, was sitting at the kitchen island, sipping her coffee from the mug I'd bought her on our honeymoon. She was scrolling through her phone, smiling at something. "Morning," I said, kissing her cheek. She barely looked up. "Hey, babe." I poured myself coffee, opened the banking app on my phone, and froze. Our joint account had dropped by $3,200 since the last time I checked, which had been on Sunday. 4 days. $3,200 gone. My chest tightened. I blinked, refreshed the app. Same number. At first I thought it was a mistake, or maybe fraud, but as I scrolled through the transactions, my stomach sank. They weren't fraudulent. They were all Emma. Boutiques, a spa appointment, a subscription to something called Lux Crate Premium, and something that made my blood pressure spike. A payment of $1,100 to a jewelry store. I didn't even try to hide my reaction. "Emma, what is all this?" She finally looked up, frowning. "What?" "These charges," I said, holding out my phone. "Did you buy all this?" Her eyes flickered, something between guilt and annoyance. And instantly, I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. "What?" she said again, but this time her tone was defensive, almost rehearsed. "Is that a problem?" My voice came out tighter than I intended. "Emma, we talked about watching our spending." She shrugged. "I needed a few things. $3,000 worth of things." That was the moment everything shifted. Her expression dropped. Her eyes hardened, and she set down her mug so slowly it was almost dramatic. "Are you seriously policing my spending now?" "No," I said, trying to stay calm. "But we can't just. So now I'm irresponsible. Is that it?" I blinked. "I didn't say that. You implied it." "I literally didn't." But she wasn't listening. Or didn't want to. She stood up so suddenly her chair scraped across the floor. "You're acting like a dictator," she snapped. "Monitoring me. Controlling me. EMMA no. If you're so obsessed with money, maybe you need to loosen up." I exhaled slowly, trying to stay grounded. This wasn't about control. This wasn't about blame. It was about reality. And reality was simple. We were running out of money. "We need to put ourselves on a budget," I said quietly. "Not forever. Just until we get things under control." Silence. Complete silence. Emma stared at me like I'd just confessed to cheating. Her jaw clenched. Her eyes narrowed. And then she said something that made my blood run cold. "Maybe you should have thought about that before quitting your job." My entire body went still. My job, my layoff, the one thing she knew was eating me alive. The one insecurity I'd cried over in the bathroom so she wouldn't see. And she used it as a weapon. Ouch. "So that's what this is," I said quietly. "You're punishing me." "Oh, don't be dramatic," she scoffed. "In just saying you don't get to lecture me on finances when I'm the only one bringing in money." Her words hit harder than I expected. I stared at her, unable to speak. She crossed her arms, satisfied she had won the argument. Except she hadn't. Something inside me shifted. Something deep and uncomfortable. I realized slowly and painfully that this wasn't just about budgeting, or the money, or the recent expenses. This was about power, about control shifting the moment I lost my job, about resentment simmering beneath the surface. And her spending, it wasn't random. It was a message I hadn't seen until now. I set my coffee down and looked her straight in the eyes. "Emma," I said quietly, "we need to talk. Not about money, about us." For the first time that morning, she seemed afraid. Emma stood there, arms still crossed, but her confidence was slipping. I could see it in the way her eyes flickered. Fast, nervous, calculating. She wasn't ready for the conversation I'd just steered us into. "Talk about us," she repeated. "What does that even mean?" "It means," I said carefully, "things haven't been okay for a while, and the money is just the surface of it." She scoffed. "Here we go." "No," I said firmly. "Listen." For a second she tensed, like she considered fighting harder, and then she sat back down, her shoulders rigid. She lifted her mug again but didn't drink. "Fine," she said. "Talk." I took a breath. "When I got laid off," I said, "I didn't feel like your partner. I felt like your problem." Her eyes flashed. "That's not fair." "I'm not saying you meant to make me feel that way," I said sharply. "I'm saying that's what happened." She opened her mouth, then closed it again, which surprised me. Emma never backed off from an argument. I pressed on. You started acting distant, irritable. You blamed me for things I couldn't control, and I let it go because I thought you were stressed. But then you started spending like we had unlimited money. I wasn't spending, she muttered. I was treating myself. For $3,000. It was my money, she shot back instantly. I froze. There it was. The shift, the divide, the line she had drawn, and I hadn't seen coming. Your money? I repeated quietly. She swallowed but didn't take it back. When you had a job, she said, you spent money the same way. But I never lectured you. That's not true, I said calmly. And you know it. Her jaw tightened. And even if it was, she snapped, you don't get to judge how I spend my paycheck. My paycheck, I said. We're married, Emma. Exactly, she said. Which is why I've carried the financial burden for months without complaining. I kept my voice level. You didn't complain. You punished. Her face changed. Just for a moment. Like Heidi said something she didn't want to acknowledge but couldn't deny. Her breaking point, then she exploded. You think it's fun being the only one working. You think I enjoy covering every single bill while you sit at home looking for offers. My blood ran cold. I send out applications every day, I said, stunned by her tone. You know I've been interviewing. She threw up her hands. Yeah, well, I'm tired of waiting for you to find yourself. I'm tired of carrying us. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't screaming, but her voice was sharp, bitter, exhausted, and entirely unfamiliar. I stared at her, feeling something inside me slowly fracture. Is that how you see me? I asked softly. Dead weight? She flinched, barely. But enough. I didn't say that, she muttered. You didn't have to. She exhaled harshly, rubbing her temples. You're twisting my words. I'm repeating them. The financial bombshell. I leaned forward. Emma, where did the money go? She froze completely. Not a flicker, not a twitch, not a blink. And that was when I realized. This wasn't about the jewelry, or the boutiques, or the spa. There was something else. Something she had hoped I wouldn't notice. I opened the banking app again. There were transfers, I said quietly. Cash withdrawals. Twice. Large ones. Her breathing quickened. I kept going. And a $780 payment labeled as consultation fee. What consultation? With who? I don't owe you an explanation for every. Emma, I said sharply, stop. Her jaw clenched so hard I thought her teeth might crack. Finally, she whispered, it's none of your business. I sat back. That was worse than admitting anything. Worse than lying. Worse than deflecting. Because she knew. She absolutely knew. It was my business. We're married, I said quietly. Every financial decision you make affects both of us. She didn't answer, but her silence was not defensive anymore. It was afraid. The secret. I didn't speak for a moment. I just watched her, the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes darted around the kitchen, her fingers trembling slightly against the mug. Finally, in a voice so low I barely heard it, she said, I didn't want you to find out yet. Find out what? She wiped her face quickly. A gesture she tried to make look casual, but wasn't. Then, barely audible, I have debt. My stomach sank. What kind of debt? She shook her head, refusing to look at me. Emma, what kind? I said I don't want to talk about it. Her voice cracked, a mixture of panic and shame. I softened my tone. I'm not here to judge you, I said. I'm here to fix this. Together, but I need to know. She closed her eyes, inhaling shakily. Then she whispered the words that punched the air out of my lungs. I have $26,000 on my credit cards. My heart stopped. 26,000. She nodded, tears now slipping down her cheeks. I didn't mean for it to get this bad, she whispered. It started as a few purchases. Things I didn't want you to judge me for. Then I kept telling myself I'd pay it off. But after your layoff, I panicked. I felt trapped. I thought if I just spent a little more, I'd feel in control again. I stared at her, stunned. She was drowning, and burying us with her. Why didn't you tell me? I whispered. She met my eyes for the first time in minutes. Because I didn't want you to see me as a failure, she said. And when you lost your job, I felt like one of us needed to pretend to be okay. My chest tightened painfully. Then she whispered, and instead, I made everything worse. The line in the sand. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, Emma, this is exactly why we need a budget. She froze. Her tears stopped mid-motion. Her eyes widened. not with shock, but with something like realization. "You're not angry," she whispered. "I'm terrified," I said honestly. "Terrified that you hid something this big. Terrified you felt alone. Terrified we're heading toward a disaster you're too scared to admit." She pressed her hand to her mouth, shoulders shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." I reached across the counter and took her hand, gently but firmly. "We're going to get through this," I said, "but only if we're honest. Only if we stop acting like enemies. And only if we face this together." Her lips trembled. "You're not leaving?" she whispered. "No," I said softly, "but I'm not pretending everything's fine anymore." She nodded slowly, tears sliding down her cheeks. "So we make a budget?" she asked, voice trembling. "Yes." "And I tell you everything?" "Yes." "And we fix it?" I paused, then squeezed her hand. Together, she collapsed into me, sobbing, her whole body shaking. Not from guilt now, but from relief. For the first time in months, she felt safe enough to fall apart. And for the first time in months, I finally understood the truth. The budget wasn't the fight. The money wasn't the enemy. The spending wasn't the betrayal. The silence was. Emma cried against my shoulder for a long time, long enough that my shirt dampened, long enough that her sobs quieted into soft shivers. And when she finally pulled back, wiping her cheeks with her sleeve, I saw something I hadn't seen in months. Fear. Real, vulnerable fear. 26,000, I said quietly, repeating the number because I still couldn't fully grasp it. "How long has this been going on?" She hesitated. "About 3 years. My stomach dropped. 3 years? Emma, that means you had this debt before we even got married." She nodded, eyes filling again. "And you didn't tell me." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Because what excuse could she possibly have? "I didn't know how," she said finally. "I kept thinking, it'll fix it before he finds out, it'll fix it before it becomes real." And then it snowballed. My hands went cold. "So you've been hiding it our entire marriage." Her silence was the answer. "The spiral of secrets, Emma, what else aren't you telling me?" She shook her head fast. "Nothing. I swear, nothing else." I didn't believe her. Not because she was lying now, but because people who hide one massive thing rarely hide only one. I stood, pacing the kitchen. "Okay, let's start from the beginning. How did the debt begin?" Her voice shrank. "Well, remember when I got that promotion at my old job?" I nodded. "You said you wanted to celebrate it," she continued. "You encouraged me to buy myself something nice. And I did. But I didn't have the money for it then. I put it on a card." I frowned. "Emma, buying yourself something nice isn't the problem. Lying for 3 years is." She covered her face with both hands. I know. But after that, I started using the card more. A little here, a little there. Groceries sometimes, clothes, makeup, then bigger things. And when the balance grew, I started making minimum payments. My jaw clenched. "Interest." She nodded miserably. "It just kept growing. And I kept hiding it. And when you got laid off," her voice cracked. I panicked. "I thought if you saw how bad things were, you'd think I was dragging you down." I stared at her. "You didn't trust me." She pressed her lips together in a thin, shaking line. "It wasn't that," she whispered. "I didn't trust myself. The budget plan falls apart." "Okay," I said, trying to steady myself. "We start by creating a plan. A budget. A real one. We'll sit down tonight. We'll list every expense, every subscription, every bill." "I canceled some things already," she said quickly. "Which things?" She swallowed. "My gym membership, my lash subscription, Lux Crate, to store credit cards, the spa membership." That was good, but it didn't change the root of the problem. "And the $1,100 jewelry purchase?" I asked softly. "What was that?" Her expression tightened. "That wasn't for me." Confusion flashed through me. "You bought a gift for someone?" "No." A pause. "It was a return." I blinked. "A return? You bought jewelry and returned it?" She nodded. "I bought it impulsively, then realized I couldn't afford it. But returning it put my card into negative credit. So I had to pay the difference." I rubbed my temples. "Emma, this isn't normal overspending. This is impulsive behavior. This is like an addiction." She looked away, ashamed. "I know. The professional consultation and the $780 consultation fee." I asked. She hesitated. "Too long." "I talked to someone," she said. "Who? A financial coach?" My eyebrows shot up. You hired a financial coach instead of telling your husband. She flinched. It was before your layoff, she said. I thought if I learned how to fix it myself, I could hide all this from you. I thought if I got better with money, you'd never need to know. A beat. And then? I asked. And then I panicked again and stopped going. I exhaled sharply. What did the coach tell you? She blinked hard. That I had addiction tendencies. With buying things. That I used shopping to cope with stress. I stared at her. And you didn't think that was something I needed to know. I thought I could fix it alone. But you didn't. She broke then. Not with dramatic sobs, but with a collapse of the entire facade she had built. The marriage under pressure, she pressed the heels of her palms into her eyes. I messed up, she said, voice breaking. I lie. I kept secrets. I hid money. I made us vulnerable. I know all that. And if you walk out right now, I won't blame you. But I swear, I wasn't trying to hurt you. I stood in silence. She was right. She had been malicious. But pain doesn't require malice. I sat slowly, facing her. Emma, do you think our marriage is okay? She froze. Her voice shook. I don't know. I swallowed. Do you trust me? She lifted her eyes, tired, red, scared. I trust you more than I trust myself. Then, why didn't you come to me? She whispered. Because I was afraid you'd see me the way I see myself. That hit hard. The turning point, Emma, this isn't just about budgeting anymore. She looked up slowly. This is about honesty, I continued. About trust, about communication. And right now, we don't have any of those. Her breath shattered into pieces. So what now? She whispered. Are you leaving? I didn't answer immediately. Because I didn't know. Part of me wanted to stay. Part of me wanted to run. Part of me wanted to save her. Part of me was exhausted from carrying something I didn't even know I'd been carrying. I finally said the only honest thing possible. I think we need help. Help? She echoed, scared. A therapist? A financial advisor? Maybe both? She stared at me, stunned. You're not giving up? No. I said quietly, but I'm not pretending either. This is bigger than both of us, and if we don't fix it together, it's going to destroy us. Her face crumpled. It'll do anything, she whispered. I swear, it'll do whatever it takes. I reached across the table and took her hand. But you need to be honest, I said. From now on. No more secrets. She nodded rapidly. No more. I promise. I squeezed her hand, not gently, not reassuringly, but firmly, like an anchor. We start tonight, I said. But first there's one more question. She tensed. I looked her straight in the eyes. Is there any more debt I don't know about? Her breath caught, and then she hesitated. Just for a second, but long enough for me to realize. There was more, and she didn't know how to tell me. Emma didn't answer, not right away, but the silence itself was an answer. A heavy, suffocating weight that settled over the room like dust after an explosion. Emma, I said quietly. How much more? Her lips trembled. She looked down at her hands, the ones that always shook when she was hiding something. At last she whispered, another card. My heart sank. How much is on it? Her shoulders curled inward as if she were trying to make herself smaller. 3,000. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the truth settle. 29,000. Almost $30,000. Why didn't you tell me that earlier? I asked. She took a shaky breath. Because that's the card I used when you lost your job. To keep us okay. To keep things looking normal so you wouldn't panic. So you wouldn't feel like a failure. The words hit me like a physical blow. Emmy, you think so little of me? No, she said quickly. No, that's not what I meant. I just didn't want you to feel ashamed. I know how much you care about providing. I didn't want you to feel like you weren't enough. I rubbed my hands over my face. So instead you took on thousands of dollars of debt. Alone? Not alone, she whispered. For us. I didn't respond. Because I couldn't decide whether that made it better or so much worse. The real reason, okay, I said quietly. Tell me the truth. The real truth. Why is it so hard for you to talk to me about money? She looked up at me with eyes that were red, swollen, and terrified. Because growing up, she whispered, money was the reason my parents screamed at each other every single night. I froze. My mom, she continued, voice barely audible, was awful with money. My dad saved every penny. Shed light. Spend, hide bills. He'd find them, explode, call her useless. She'd cry, he'd yell. I'd hide in my room. When I met you, I told myself I'd never be like her. And when I started messing up, I panicked. Because I felt like her. And I didn't want you to look at me the way my dad looked at her. The room went quiet. A deep, aching quiet. She wasn't making excuses. She wasn't deflecting. She was breaking open. I was scared, she whispered, of losing you, of being a disappointment, of repeating her life. Tears finally spilled down her cheeks, and by hiding everything I became exactly what I feared. The choice I reached across the table and took her hand. Emma, I said softly, I'm not your father, and you're not your mother. She shook her head slowly. But I lied. I betrayed our trust. I kept secrets for years. I ruined us. No, I said firmly, you didn't ruin us. You hurt us. You made mistakes, big ones, but you didn't ruin us. She blinked through her tears. Then what now? And this time I hesitated, because the easy answer would be, well, fix it together. The dramatic answer would be, I'm leaving. The real answer was somewhere in between. We're not okay, I said quietly. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. But if you're willing to be honest, consistently honest, and if you're willing to get help, real help, then I'm willing to try. Her breath caught. You want to stay? I want to work on this, I corrected. That doesn't mean it'll be simple, or easy, or fast, but I don't want to walk away from our marriage because of fear and shame. Not if you're willing to change. She nodded rapidly, tears falling again. I swear I'll go to therapy. I'll work with a financial advisor. I'll give you full access to everything. I'll do whatever it takes. I squeezed her hand. Then we start tomorrow. She let out a shaky exhale, half relief, half disbelief. You still love me? She whispered. I do, I said. But love doesn't fix everything. Work does. Honesty does. She looked down at our intertwined hands and whispered, I won't let you down again. Epilogue. 6 months later, we sat in the office of a financial counselor, a real one this time, not a scam coach. Emma had every card laid out on the desk, every statement printed, every purchase tracked. We weren't debt-free yet, but we had a plan. A real, sustainable plan. But the bigger change wasn't the debt. It was us. She talked openly now. She checked him before major purchases. She faced her impulses instead of hiding them. She apologized when she slipped. And I listened, not to judge, but to understand. We still fought sometimes. We still struggled. But we fought together, not against each other. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were a team. A real one. Final paragraph. The AITAH question. Sometimes I still lie awake wondering, was I the asshole for telling my wife we needed a budget? Or was I the only one willing to say the thing that could save us both? Maybe the truth is this. A marriage isn't ruined by one mistake, but by the lies we tell to hide it. And the day we chose honesty over comfort was the day our marriage finally began.